Welcome back to the Bounce Podcast. I'm your host Ayub, and we have a special one for you today. So today we're joined with a Hall of Famer, a pioneer in Australian basketball, Calvin Bruton. Now, Cal is one of the first people to play in the NBL, joining the Brisbane Bullets for the first NBL season, where he led all scorers with an average of 33 points per game. He had a very successful playing career with 4 grand final appearances. Then he went on to have a very successful coaching career with another 3 grand final appearances. Cal, it's a pleasure to have you on.
Well, thank you, Ayub. I'm glad to be here with you.
I'm glad to be here with you as well. So, I want to start off with your background and how you got into basketball. I know you were brought up in Brooklyn, and just talk to us, like how did you kind of get into basketball? How was growing up?
Yeah, growing up was great. In my first 7 years, I got 2 younger sister who she was intellectually handicapped, and that she was born 10 months after myself. She was albino, and she had a photographic memory, but she couldn't actually, fit in with like a lot of people. So what came of that was that um, when we were 7 years of age, my dad was killed, and I became the man of the house at the ripe old age of 7. So my mom asked me to stay out of trouble and play sports. And she encouraged me to play all sports. I played basketball, I played football, I played baseball, and I was busy, so that kept me out of trouble. And then we were able to settle and move to Queens, New York, where I was able to make my high school team and played in the Popwater Football League and played baseball for Springfield Gardens High School as well as basketball. And then I made the All-City team in basketball. I made All-City team in baseball, and I was the MVP of the Popwater Football League in football. So I looking for a college to go to. My mom didn't want me to stay at home. So, basketball became my ticket because I played it all the time. I played it around the clock, um, in the parks, which was really close to home. I'll get there in the summertime at sunrise and then go home at sunset, and I became pretty adept at, handling the ball and competing, because once you lose, you go to the end of the court and you don't get to play much unless you stay on the court and win. Or if you were good enough, someone might pick you for their next game. But that's what got me started in basketball. I received a scholarship to Wichita State University in Kansas. I came there, and that was in 1972. I was able to make the team as a freshman in my first year, the starting lineup, and then I went on to represent the U.S. And my conference, the Missouri Valley Conference in Brazil, and they nicknamed me the Pele of U.S. basketball. And then from there, I thought I was all that, a bucket of chips and a drink. So I went back to Wichita. Unfortunately, we got put on probation for 2 years, my sophomore and junior year, and we didn't come off it until my senior year in 1976. And we won the conference championship, and I was run-up MVP of the conference. We went to the NCAA first round of 64, and we lost to the eventual runner-ups, which was Michigan, with a guy named Ricky Green, who I held to his all-time low, and then I was able to sort of do my thing on the offensive end. But they beat us by a point, and they went on to the final, which I lived in his shoes, and then my career took off to go to the NBA. I really wanted to make a NBA team. I never got drafted, so I had to go trial. I went to San Antonio Spurs, and I ended up in the free agent camp. I graduated from that into the veteran camp. Into the rookie camp with all the draftees. Then they took me from the rookie camp and invited me back to the vet camp. I played exhibition games against some of my idols: Calvin Murphy, Pete Maravich, Gail Goodrich, Rudy Tomjanovich. All these guys are Hall of Famers, and then all of a sudden I got shut down, and that was it. So I went back to New York, taught school for a year, and then came back to trial again with the Kansas City Kings. Then they now the Sacramento Kings, and I lasted a week and went back, to my garbage truck route, and then all of a sudden I got a phone call about coming to Australia. So that's really, in a nutshell, how my basketball journey took its own legacy on, if you like. And I ended up in Australia in 1979, not knowing anything about it, and just landed here to try to start a career.
That is a good backstory. That is one of the craziest backstories I've ever heard. But I just want to ask you as well, like, how was it? How was it like? Just getting like not even just to play for the I think you said San Antonio Spurs.
Yes,
That would have been like a crazy experience. Like, how was that?
it sure was. It was like sort of like 170 guys that showed up for this free agent camp, and it was crazy. It went for 3 days, and cut it down to 100 on the first session. Then they cut it down to I think 70 on the second session, and then we came back the next day. They cut it down to 20, and then that group we trained for the next day and a half, and then they picked three. I'm sorry, they picked five, and I was one of the five. And then the next day, in the first rookie camp, they cut it to three, and I was one of the three. And then they invited us back to vet camp. So that was a real going through the ringer. You had to be fit because it was 5 days once the rookies came in, and we all competed. My game was built on fitness, speed, and quickness, and I kind of used that to like elevate myself to another level. So I was pretty confident that I would make that team. And when they actually cut me, I was quite surprised. They did wish me well and told me not to give up on my dream, and that I didn't. So that's what I guess led to me coming to Australia.
So that all led to you coming to Australia, and I guess I mean me also as being a pretty short person, I would say I feel like having speed and athleticism is very very important in basketball. So like I feel like I understand where you're coming from as well. It's kind of inspirational, I guess.
Thank you. Well, I thought the best way to impress people is with your skill set and your ability to actually be in the best fitness, the best shape you can possibly be in. And therefore, they'll look at you in a different light, like you really want to achieve a goal, because you came totally prepared. The motto of the 5 Ps, prior preparation prevents poor performance. I was always about it and kept myself in top nick. Even now, at the ripe age of 68, I try to keep reasonable shape, but I think that if you put your best foot forward and showcase all your assets, you can impress people, and obviously you got to play the game the right way. You got to play unselfishly. You got to be, I use the old adage of the HST. It was a little acronym I made up, just like the GST. You got to play hard, you got to play smart, and you got to play together with a. And I've always tried to make players around me better. And if that meant I had to take on the pressure to relieve them, like AKA Steph Curry slash, what's his name from Philadelphia?
James Harden.
Yeah, James Harden. You take on the pressure, and then next thing you know, your teammates lift around you. And then other times, because I was a player coach here for 5 seasons in the NBL, so I had to understand how to maximize the talent around me, but yet still make sure that they didn't forget about me.
Well, did that motto kind of like make you want to coach? Because like the togetherness, like you always wanted to like kind of like bring people around you better, make them better, make the players better around you. So did that make you kind of like want to be a better coach, or even just like pursue coaching more?
Yes, most definitely. The coaching thing started for me as a directive coaching in Geelong, whereby I was asked to go to all the schools and introduce the game to all the young kids coming up, and they didn't. Most of the schools didn't even have basketball rings; they had netball rings. So I was actually, practicing on netball rings to shoot it, and if you can shoot a basketball in a netball ring, the hoop looks pretty big when you actually get to it. So by doing that, and then my first year in the NBL in 19, I should say my second year, because the first year was with Brisbane, but my second year in the NBL was with Geelong, and they fired the coach 2 games into the season, and they asked me to take over, and of course, when I did, I didn't really have any handle on coaching a team from a player coaching position, but I've always been a point guard. So I looked at it as, a point guard provides leadership, and you got to play unselfishly. And so I always tried to make sure that the guys realized that I am an unselfish player. I always thought about, when you create opportunities from others, you can't keep those opportunities from yourself. So, you know, um, I've always tried to make players that play with me pretty happy and excited to play with me. And then I had this attitude called MTXE, which was a slogan for my university, which stood for mental toughness and extra effort. So I had my team running on the track way back in like 1982. You know, 2 days a week. We used to train on the track for an hour and a half, running miles, running 200-yard sprints, running 400-yard sprints, running the old Indian file races, and and it was different for them. They really took to it because we used to train twice a week for 3 hours on a Tuesday and a Thursday, and all the guys on the team pretty much had full time jobs. So and so did I, going around to all the schools. So the the whole idea of saying, well, hold up, when I took over the coaching, those 2 days, 3 hours, you start at 6 o'clock, you finish 7 o'clock, you finish at 10, and all of a sudden, the guys are just sluggish and tired, when they come back on Thursday. I said, no, we're gonna do 1 hour a day. So we replaced those 6 hours 5 days a week, and 2 of those days we're gonna be on the track. So we got a lot of things done in that first year. I coached the team Geelong to the grand final in the NBL, and we lost, unfortunately, to West Adelaide Bearcats. But that was to start my coaching, and then I learned pretty quickly how you had to build values, and you had to set goals, and you had to set targets that you wanted to achieve during the games, and that's when I delved into it much deeper to try to learn more about it.
So I wanna ask you. So from going from America to Australia, like how was the culture like different?
Coming to Australia was a freaking culture shock, straight
Yeah.
up. When I landed, it was the tin shed era, and
Hmm.
I was used to playing in the New Orleans Superdome and at the universities where you got up with 10,000 people, and the Superdome was 60,000.
Yeah.
So I come to the tin shed, and you'd be lucky to get 600 in there. And that was an eye opener for me. But I understood pretty quickly that, this is what basketball was all about here. And then that 600, I vowed to entertain them. That was my thing. If I could throw a pass behind my neck or back or between the legs, I'm gonna do that. So people look forward to maybe seeing me play again because I was something different. So even though I averaged 33 a game, they never kept track of my assists. And also my free throw percentage. I was going to the free throw line because I was so quick I can get by most guys, and the other guy come and try to belt me, and I'll go to the line. So I would get a lot of free throws, and that 33 points a game with no 3 point line and a 40-minute game was indicative of the way I played the game back then. So that culture shock made me sort of realize that um, the import players that came here were all expected to produce, and Australians really just wanted to complement those Americans. And I was always about the other. I wanted to bring the Australian players up a notch, so they had to be respected, and I can find mine in between time. So I always try to create moves by going by my man, draw their man, and dish it off to them. And when they got the easy buckets, they got excited. They be waiting like this with their hands wide open because they know if they didn't have their hands wide open, I might hit them in the nose.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed that, and the fans obviously enjoyed it. And everywhere I went, it was packed houses, and they were giving me nicknames. The Black Magic and the Black Flash and the Black this, Black that, and kind of stuck to the Black Pearl was the name
Yeah.
that came out of it, which I kind of liked. And then I went from there to really understand that that's the culture. These people have seen this talent that I'm providing. Now they're gonna go get some more imports to kind of keep up with me. And that's what made the game fun for me.
The first season in the NBL. What's like your favorite memory in the first season? I feel like it would have been like kind of a crazy experience.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, it was. It was against the Nunawading Inspectors in Melbourne, and when we went to Melbourne, was told that was one of the better Australian teams in the competition. And also, we play on weekends, so you play two games when you travel. You play on a Saturday and a Sunday, and then you fly back. So we landed on the Saturday and played St Kilda, and they were the top team. They had most of the Australian players playing for them too. So they gave us a little bit of a touch up. I think they beat us by 25 or something, but I had like 38 points. So they were pretty like wow. And of course, the Nuttawading team was all there watching me, play that game. So they knew what to prepare for the next day. And then of course, when I landed when I landed in Nuttawading, the first thing I saw was their mascot come out with a hood on their head, and the eyes cut out. And I thought, dang, the only other place I seen that was like on television, the Ku Klux Klan, like.
Yeah.
So I'm like, do they have them over here too? Like, oh my goodness! And of course, everybody in the stands was Caucasian. So, and I was only one of two Black Americans in the whole competition. The other was Herb McKeechin, who played here for Canberra Cannon. So I stepped on the court. They introduced me and they booed me as I ran out. And everyone talked about I was the leading scorer in the league at this time. And then when they called their team out and we actually got around for the jump ball, you shaking hands with all the guys. They all came up to me and said they got 5 fouls. They're gonna be using them, and yeah, we'll see how you go here, boy. That
Yeah.
thing.
Trash talk and
Yeah,
everything.
they trying to intimidate me, and I don't think they realize the New Yorkers don't play that, right? So I said, well, if y'all gonna give me all these fouls, I might get 50 tonight. Yeah. And the first play of the game, I got slapped really hard on the head, and I got the balls. I had the old horseshoe haircut with no hair up top, but most of it around the side. They popped me around the top of my dome, and I went, oh my goodness, no foul call. So I thought, oh shucks, I better wake up real quick here. Anyway, long story short, I ended up scoring 41. We were handing it back to them, and the fans was booing, and then the coach subbed me out to give me an ovation, but the crowd went crazy. They started throwing things. So he told me, no, you better go back on the court. And of course, I had to get a police escort out the building. So that was the first of my understanding that not everybody gonna like you over here, no matter what kind of show you put on. So I kind of understood that, and then for the rest of the year, I really tried to put on a performance. So I had 41 that game, but I scored 53 against Glen Elg and Adelaide, which was an all-time high in Australian basketball for that, at that period of time, and particularly coming from a short guy. And then I was going to places like Toowoomba as a hired gun to go play, and I had 75 points in a game up there. So the word got out about, man, this guy can score, and that didn't stop me from I wouldn't shoot just to be missing. I was always trying to get buckets. So my thing was I practiced early in the morning. I had to go for a run with Dave Atkins, who was the director of coaching in Queensland. He's the guy that recruited me and brought me over. So he used to work me out, make sure I was really on top of my game because we as a unit weren't very strong, but we finished up 18 game season and we were 10-8, so we had a winning season, and we finished fifth, which I thought was respectively good because Dan Hickett, the other import player, was from Bird City, Kansas, a big white kid, 6'11", played at K State. We were like Mutt and Jeff, us two, and we pretty much shared an apartment. We were next door to each other in two single units, and we became really close. He was the best man at my wedding. Um, we felt that we were a nice combination, and if the big guys came after me, then he'd come out and give them a foul or two as well. and,
Yeah.
and he was a unit.
How did that like relationship kind of like did that help you in your basketball journey at all? Or like,
Oh yeah, no, most definitely. Relationships is all about basketball. I think if you really want to achieve anything, and Dan and I, because he was a country boy and I was a city slicker, so to speak. He he liked what I was bringing, the music. I always bring a big boom box, and I said, "Come on, Dan, you got to learn how to dance, champ." Like shoot. And then we used to. I play the music. He can hear it through his walls and whatnot. He used to be banging on the door sometimes and tell me to turn it down, But I used to on the court because I used to leak out after I, you know, play the D and my man shoot the ball. I'll take off, and I'll go yo yo, and he'll just get the outlet and just zoom it down to me. I used to probably pick up about at least 8 points a game, just on running out and the fast break. And then, of course, teams started preparing for that, and then I'll just still catch it. And when Dan comes down, I'll make sure I look after him because he's looking after me to help me get buckets. I got to look after him when we're in the half court game. So I can set him up quite nicely, and we enjoyed that relationship.
That would have been actually very like I feel like it's very good to have like a, I guess you could say, duo or someone else who's like just like the connection, you know.
No question about it. You got to appreciate the talent around you, and if you got a good player, um, I think if you the philosophy my mom always told me, and when she passed away in '88, she left that note in her Bible. But she used to say it to me all the time: is that when you put sunshine in other people's lives, you can't keep it from yourself. And I was always trying to spread that sunshine, and you can do that by throwing a nice pass and making those guys feel good that they knew that if they ran the lanes hard and whatnot, I was going to try my best to get the ball right back to them, so they can get a score. And everybody feels good when they taking the score sheet over. They can go home and tell their
Of
girl,
course.
shit, I scored 8 points tonight. That was 8 more than you had all last season.
Yeah. Well, I also heard that you met Michael Jordan at one point.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure you met him through an under 16s 3-on-3 tournament.
Correct. It
Yeah.
was the first time they've ever ran a 3-on-3 here in Australia. It was a national 3-on-3 sponsored by Gatorade, and that's when Mike was doing all the Gatorade commercials and what have you. So what came of that was that my young son Austin, at the time, they got a group of guys together. We got 4 players, and said, could I coach him? And I was working full time at that point, but I said, it's on the weekend. Okay, we'll squeeze it in. It was in Western Australia and Fremantle, and we ended up winning that section. So he was pretty excited and stuff because the carrot was that if you won your section, then you get an all expense paid trip to go to Sydney. And then if you won that section in Sydney, you got an all expense paid trip to go to California, Santa Barbara, and meet Michael Jordan. And you can get a chance to spend an hour with him. Ask him anything you want, and he's going to accommodate you. So we ended up winning the West Australia. We went to Sydney. We won the first 3 rounds, and then we had to play 4 rounds. We had to play Melbourne, who were very, very tough. They had a couple big solid guys. And my son Austin, pretty much like me, is a shorty, but he had a skill set that was pretty nice. He became an All-American at Indian Hills Community College and won a national championship in America, along with my son CJ. So they both
Yeah.
had gone to the same school. And then when CJ left, Austin came in. So it was kind of always a little tag team. But but we got to the final. We were down sort of like 2 points with a short time to go in the game, and then Austin called timeout. So I'm like, "What are you doing? Calling timeout? Like, go play." He started crying, and he was like, "Dad, tell him to give me the ball." He didn't, and he had a little adjective before that, right?
Yeah.
And all right, but settle down. Settle down. We all right. He's no time is running out. I want to see Mike. I want to see Mike. So I designed the play up and cleared him out after a pick and roll. And man, he just shook this guy down and boom, scored a bucket, then stole the inbounds pass from them, and then dribbled out the clock. And bam, we're going to see Mike. And he was so excited. And of course, when we got there, it was everything it was made up to be. Mike looked after the kids, gave them gifts. We got photos with him, like the one you seen. And then Mike asked me, like, where you from? Because he was wondering, I'm representing the Australian team. Like, he said, you don't look Australian. I said, I'm from the same place you're from. And he goes, well, like, where? I'm from Brooklyn. I said, that's where I was from. I'm born in Brooklyn. He goes, where out in Brooklyn? And we weren't too far from each other. I said, I was in Flatbush. He said, oh, wow, that's where I'm from. So
Yeah.
as it talked out, he said, why don't you come out tonight with me? And I went, sure. All right. And I knew I was responsible for these 4 young men, but I went and got them all pizzas and Coke and said, y'all lock up. Don't leave the room. I'm going out with Mike. And he sent the limousine for me. And we went out to the club. When we got in the club, we had to get like a police escort into the bar and stuff. And man, people want him. They wanted a piece of him so bad because this is when he was filming his first movie.
Mm.
What's it called?
Space Jam.
Space Jam.
Space Jam.
Yeah, the first
Yeah.
Space Jam movie. So that
Yeah.
was filmed in a dome and stuff, and we were there to watch that all set up and what have you, and then we went to this club and Jesus Christ, the girls and stuff that was just chasing this guy. He had to get behind the bar with the police, and he made us all drink. So the guys that he had in the car with him,
Mm.
and of course that's when he was getting ready for his comeback game too. You know, that comeback year, I should say.
Mm.
And yeah, it was a pleasure. So he remembered me from being from Brooklyn, New York, the same place as he's from. And his mom came out here. She went up to Broome and on a silent trip. But probably, Mike was one of the pros. But like Magic Johnson, I had a chance to have him play with my Canberra Cannons team. If you go on YouTube, you can see that game, Magic Johnson with Canberra Cannons, and you'll see the
Yeah.
highlights. So I coach Magic, so that's probably another one of my highlights from actually playing in Australian basketball, and you can't get any better two icons of the sport than Mike and Magic.
Magic. Yeah. 100%. I agree with you. No, I didn't know about the Magic thing. That would have been crazy.
We played together against his alma mater. He got stuck for a team every year. He was bringing over teams to play a exhibition game
Mm.
against Michigan State, and apparently the team pulled out. And then I received a call while I was coaching Canberra, and they asked me would I be able to bring a team across, and without even thinking how and how we're going to do it, and we were in our season, I just said, "Yeah, we can do that." So I had to raise $60,000 within probably 3.5 weeks. And I called Magic up because he said he needed to know within a few days whether I can do it. And I said, yes, um, but I need a favor. I said, can I get an opportunity to make up some jerseys with your name on the back? Because this is the way I can sell them and make some money on funding our airfares and accommodation and stuff. So he goes, don't worry about the combination. You get here, we got you covered. But yeah, the airfares, that's on you. And I need to know that you can do that. So I said, well, give me a chance by the end of the week. So I called up a jersey manufacturer who I knew and said, yo, man, I need some Magic Johnson's name on the back, camera cannons on the front. I need you to make up these 32s, and I need like 100 of them. And the guy said, okay, I can do it for you, Cal. So we made it up. I got on the blower. I rang like 3 sponsors and sold them 3 packages of 15 jerseys each for 15 grand
Mm.
and
Dang.
sold that like hotcakes.
Yeah.
So that was 45 grand in the kitty. And then I went and used another 15 jerseys and auctioned them off on a radio station and
Dang.
made another 15 grand. So it was the flights covered,
Yeah.
and then we had made some extra money. So the guys all had a little spending money. And then we went and we played Michigan State for their preseason game with Magic playing for us and we gave them a serious spanking. They wasn't very
Yeah.
happy with us, but we had a big party afterward, and then we went played another game the following evening. I can't even think of the club. It was an old school club that the former coach of the Boston Celtics, who's now the
Mm.
general manager or CEO. He was the coach at the time and
Yeah.
see, I'm drawing blanks these days because it's been like 30 years ago. But
That's all good.
but
All good.
but yeah, it was a great trip. And then we came back and we played our season. But unfortunately, that's when the Cannons they sort of folded. Probably 2 weeks after that, and then we were out for a whole month, and then they brought us back to finish the season, and it was crazy. Yeah, but yeah, that Magic trip was a highlight as well.
Don't mind my cat. Just one sec. Hold on. So I know that you have a foundation called Bruton Basketball Foundation,
Yes,
which is an incredible program, by the way. Like I went into it, I researched a little bit. It's very cool, very cool.
thank you.
Um, but how did this program start? So like, why did you start that?
Well, I started out to help disadvantaged kids like myself. Like I mentioned, I grew up without a dad, and my mom really struggled because we didn't have any income. She never worked, so we were living on my dad's death benefits, which weren't a lot after my mom used the bulk of it to purchase a home for us in Queens. And so I never had much. I used to wear cardboard in my sneakers, and I had to wait until I could get a pair. And sometimes they were hand me downs from a cousin or something like that. So for me, it was all about having some people, mentors slash coaches that took care of me. You know, when I say took care of me, they provided me with sometimes some spending cash. You know, to go join, make play in a tournament, and or buy a uniform or pay an entry fee. You know, because we couldn't afford it, and my mom struggled with alcoholism. So, and my sister got taken away from home and put in a special school, and my younger sister had to go live with my auntie. So we really struggled. So I thought about, when I was setting this up, what would kids like me do? And it kind of drew me to the First Nation space. So I started traveling into different states. I would go to the indigenous communities and offer my services to run basketball clinics and try to help the kids. So, Patty Mills was one of my kids. He wasn't one of those poor kids, but I used to coach him. One time he was like 12 years old, and then I used to travel. Danny Morsu was one of my former players who played with me when I was in Geelong, and then we played again in Brisbane and won a championship together. So he got me more familiarized with that space as well. And then I felt, well, I was going through a tough time trying to readjust my life after the Cannons folded, and I coached one season for the West Sydney Razorbacks, and then came back to Canberra, and I decided that I wasn't going to leave to go chasing the basketball anymore because I had moved around from Brisbane to Geelong, back to Brisbane to Perth to Tasmania to Perth to Canberra, and I was over it, So
Yeah.
I started selling cars. I started selling luxury cars. Mercedes Benz was the first company. Then I went to Audi, Lexus. I went to Volkswagen, and I became like the number one salesman in all those places.
Mm.
And it was like my little slogan was, "I'm the man with the plan to put the keys in your hand." Right. And so I did kind of good out of that. I bought a couple of properties, and then I had two more kids or three more kids. And my daughter, who didn't want to play basketball, but she was into the musical and dance side of things, who's now a social worker and a graduate from Australian Catholic Uni. My two youngest sons, one of them is 19 years of age, and he's now in University of Tasmania, and he's
Mm.
playing for the Hobart Chargers as a development player, but he's also playing for the University of Tasmania in the UBL,
Yeah.
and doing quite well. And then I have my youngest son here, 16. He representing the ACT in the under 18s, under 16s, and he was captain this year in the under 18 championships up in Brisbane. So
Mm.
I couldn't see them play on the Saturdays. I used to take test drives and have the driver drop me off at the stadium so I can go in
Yeah.
and say hello to him and everything, and watch him for 10 minutes, and then the driver come back, pick me up, and I head back to the dealership. So
Yeah.
I just decided, you know what, I'm gonna switch it up. I set up a private company called Bruton Basketball, and then I
Mm.
started calling my kids, the older ones, CJ, who had just come back from New Zealand, my son Austin, my oldest son Elliot, and said, you know what, we're going to do these family clinic called Bruton Basketball. And let's start in these country areas. So we went to places like Orange, New South Wales, and Bathurst and Dubbo. Then we go to Taree in northern New South Wales, and
Yeah.
Wagga Wagga, you name it. I was traveling
Yeah.
around, Ballina, and all of a sudden they started to become popular. I started
Mm.
giving kids Bruton T-shirts and giving them water bottles and bags, and then all of a sudden it took on a life of its own. So everywhere I went, we were starting to build up, and we were getting 100 kids come to the camp, and we were also turning it into a holiday for the whole family. So all my kids, and I got 5 grandkids, we all usually go rent a big Airbnb, and we all kind of lock in, and we do our clinic for 2 days, and then we have a holiday for a couple of days.
Yeah.
So that was the plan, and then it got to a point where that was kind of costing me more money, and what I did was decide, let me take this to the next level where I can really get an advantage to help these kids even further. And I decided to set up the foundation. So I had a lawyer friend, Mark North, say to me, Cal, you always do these things for other people. I think it's time you look after yourself with this, and let's go down that track. And now the Bruton Basketball Foundation helps these kids get scholarships, and we have a number of kids in the states at the moment that's come through the pathways. We got a number of kids playing ball locally in different states, and now I'm involved with AFL Sports Ready Education and Employment. AFL is the sponsor of the group, but they in partnership with myself at Bruton Basketball.
Yeah.
And what I do is I go and create um jobs through our organization, and then I mentor a lot of these young kids coming through, and then I go to their graduations,
Yeah.
watch them, and we've had over 17,000 kids come through this program. I've been with them for the last 8 years, and it's been exciting to combine the two. So,
Mhm.
people think I flip codes now. I'm an AFL guy, but no, it's just a part of the education and employment. We have sports rec programs, we have education programs, we have horticulture, we have IT, we have business admin. We have a whole group, a gamut of different organizations that I go knock on doors and say, hey, how would you like to help and help these young kids and take on a trainee by coming on board with us? And what we do is give accredited and quality education, educational support for a young person. They do the course, they get work experience, which is paid for, paid work experience, and then they graduate. And then they either move on to consolidate a position with the organization, or they go on to further education because it gives them a entry into the university. So, so I've been, like I said, doing this for 8 years. Kevin Sheedy started the program looking to support former footballers, and then it evolved to just mainly a First Nations program with a lot of young Indigenous kids from around the country, and it also has some great partnerships. But more importantly, they have uh, this this tremendous platform that helps young people achieve their goals in the industry that they choose to continue with and grow with. So there's some fantastic stories. If you check out aflsportsready.com.au, go onto their website.
I feel like I didn't have that. So like as a kid, so like I feel like a lot of kids wouldn't enjoy that. Just
Yes,
even playing basketball for fun, doing it.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
the basketball part comes underneath the foundation, so that's where we really trying to give you a perfect example. I had a young kid named Lachlan Mayo. He's an indigenous kid. He's finishing school, but he doesn't know what he wants to do. So I had him since he was sort of 10, 11 years old, working coming to my clinics to learn basketball. But eventually, when he was 13, 14, I had him and my young son, Brooklyn, running the little kids for me. So I'll do all the older kids and big kids on court one, and they'll do on court three. They're doing all the little tots, and they doing the same thing I'm doing because they've come through the ranks. Anyway, he didn't know what he wanted to do. He was looking at becoming in the public service. So I said, no, you should look at a traineeship. I said, what I'll do is I'll go knock on basketball ACT's door and see if they would open up this position for you as a trainee. And so they did. As it turned out, the young man went on to become the First Nations Trainee of the Year. He then became full time working for Basketball ACT as a development officer. And then he decided that he wanted to play at a level because he was still playing local comp, but he wanted to elevate his game. So he's gone to Darwin, where he was born, but he's never been back there. Through my foundation and my contacts, and he has uncles there, I received a phone call last week to see if I would provide a reference for him, and so he could apply for a job as a social worker full time. And he's made the Darwin Salties in the NBL one as a development player. So now this kid is just taking off, and he started out, 3 years ago, not knowing what to do.
Yeah.
So that's how it all evolves, and that makes me proud to be able to help a young man like that and to see him do great things and achieve. And what he did, he went and tapped another First Nations kid on the shoulder and said, "Hey, I'm leaving this job. You can come in and you can be a trainee. And
Yeah.
Cal will mentor you. And now he became a trainee of the year, right?
Yeah.
And now he's
Nice.
working full time for Basketball ACT. So now they've come to me and said, Cal, we're looking for a media person. Maybe that could be you.
Well, that's crazy. Your program is doing a lot of good things for everyone. So I'm keen to see where what else happens from your program.
Yeah, we've taken it to another level. That's the plan.
I also want to ask you that, like, I'm guessing you've seen like the next generation, like your kids, your grandkids. How is it just like seeing them evolve and them play basketball, or like even just like move on to the next level? And maybe do you even see like yourself in them as well?
Well, obviously, the first person we talk about is my son CJ, who everything I've done, he smashed it. I'm in the Hall of Fame. That's the only thing I got over him at the moment. But no doubt he'll be inductee before long. But you know, he's won 6 NBL titles, and yeah, I think the most out of any equal most out of any player ever in NBL history. He's also captain Australia. So I played for Australia, but he's gone on to become a captain.
Yeah,
He's also become a coach, assistant coach at Australian level, and he was assistant coach with Andre Lamanis and at the Commonwealth Games where they won gold medals and twice and so now he's coaching the Adelaide 36ers and starting his career. He hasn't had a great deal of success here, but he did create history by taking his team over to America and beating the Phoenix Suns, which was
ooh,
Western Conference champions
yeah,
um, 2 years ago.
mm,
Yeah, a year and a bit ago. So for mine, I said, "Wow, look what he's achieved." And then I have, like I said, 4 other sons, and they all played their game. One of my sons just got an award, Austin, for playing in 300 games in Western Australia in the State Basketball League, 373 games, so which is like the ninth most ever, you know.
mm,
And my son Elliot coaches in the PCYC, developing young Indigenous kids in New South Wales and Tiree. And then, of course, I mentioned that Brooklyn is attending University of Tasmania. He's playing, and
mm.
Austin is, Dante. So I had to get the names mixed up. So I had to name them A, B, C, D, E. So if I knew my ABC, Austin, Brooklyn, CJ, Dante, and Elliot. So not in that order, but they
Yeah,
all kind of chimed in case I lose my mind. I can say my ABCs. They might still remember me. But I think it's important that my grandson now is 6'3",
mm,
CJ's boy, and he's representing South Australia. So we're pretty excited that we've taken on the basketball because I think it's a tremendous vehicle for any young person. Teaches you the values, it teaches you the fundamentals, gives you life experiences that you can't really get it elsewhere. So I'm feeling blessed that my kids and my daughter, who's a social worker now, and she's doing some great things in that space. So I'm hoping one day I can call on her to come in and share her expertise with those young basketballers too. So I'm very proud father and grandfather, and I think the sport. I'm grateful for what the sport has done for me, but more importantly is the name and the branding that we've been able to build out of it that keeps me active in it. So right now I run a futures program, which is like I said, under 12s and under 14s. So
yeah,
you got to roll up your sleeve for 4 hours on a Saturday, and I got to get down with these kids, and I got to put the music on, and I got to teach them how to dance while they balling, and I'm getting the feedback from the parents like, wow, the energy that you give, and the kids just loving it and what have you. So that's what I think it's all about, the give back,
mm,
and I'm able to do that now like I said, I'll be 69 in a few months. I think I got probably another couple years of, trying to wrap this up into a point where the foundation got legs
mm.
and the next gen can take it on and do their thing. And I can sit back and kind of watch it grow.
Like with what you do is amazing. I love it.
Thank you. I think, I got 2 years ago now, I think it is. Yeah, I received an OAM
Mm,
from the government for my contribution to basketball as a player and a coach, and that
yeah,
was probably the highest honor a public person can receive, and I wasn't born here, so to come from another country and be able to receive from the governor general, a little medal he pinned on me, that was like really, really exciting. But for all I've achieved, I've been a coach of the year. Like I said, I played for Australia. I've been a leading scorer. I've been led the league in assists. I won championships in all levels. But no one's ever retired my jersey. Not one organization. And we had a big little thing about that with the Perth Wildcats recently. It was like all over the Facebook and stuff. And I think it was something like 700 comments. People coming at. But you know, I don't chase it, but when you work as hard as I had to work to try to lift the game up, I've never received a job from any offers from anybody from Basketball Australia or the NBL, but
Mm.
that doesn't stop me from contributing. That's what I said. It's like, yeah, if you want to put one hand behind my back and then think, well, I still got two legs, I can still go around. I got one arm, and I'm still going to do my thing.
Yeah.
And when I can see the benefit of the young kids getting something out of it, then that's enough gas in my tank, to keep me rolling and keep me wanting to contribute to the game. So I like to think it all comes back in due time, But meanwhile, you hang your hat on what you did recently to help one kid be able to sort of realize his dream, and
Yeah.
that's been my goal for the longest now.
I want to ask you. So, like, let's say a player comes to you and just from a coach perspective, what advice would you give a young player? Like, what advice would you give him if he wants to make it to another level or the next level?
I get that all the time. I get young kids coming at me. They want to, go to the next step. First, I tell them about my favorite acronym. It's called "Pack Your Pride Suitcase." Right, so you got to pack that wherever you go. And the P stands for persevering. You got to persevere through some tough times. Like no one's going to give you anything. That's where you got to get that in your head. You got to persevere through all the knockbacks, the slapbacks. You just got to keep working on your craft and getting better at it, and that's all part of the pride that there are. You got to have respect for yourself, respect for elders. You have to have respect for the game, authority, your club you play for, the association you represent. More importantly, you have to represent your family. So you got to bring it each time. And understand that's all part of the package. The I. You got to make intelligent decisions with your life. That means your education is important. You can't drop the bundle and drop the bag on that. You got to carry the educational process through so that you able to learn and grow and get better at life things, and your life experiences. Then the D is my favorite because I kind of pattern myself after the D's. You got to be dedicated. You got to be determined. You got to have a determination. You got to be dedicated. You got to have the dedication. You got to be disciplined. That means you got to look after yourself. You got to look after your health, your well-being. But that's all part of it. And you got to pay attention to details on how you're gonna go about achieving the goals. You got to write them down because they just dreams. You know, they're not goals. So, if you don't write them down, they just dreams. So you gotta tick a box and check them off, and as you keep going. And the last thing is nothing's gonna happen unless you put in that effort. That MTXE that I mentioned to you before, that mental toughness and achievement and putting in that extra effort. So now you done completed your pride suitcase. And when you open it up, you're gonna land at a destination,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
you can unpack it and hang up your clothes and your shoes and all that, and you're ready to rock. So
Yeah.
that's where I kind of tell a young fella that, and go seeking to a higher being, someone that you respect, and asking them, "How can I get better? Can you help me with this?" Very rarely when you approach someone and ask them for help, will they say, "No, get the what out of here." I think most people would be kind enough to sort of, like I do. I just say, "Well, if I don't know or I'm not able to, let me set a date and I'll come back to you. But maybe I can put you onto this person." and then you call them, and then I'll get on the blower and tell that person, can you help this person out because they're looking to get better, and then I'll come back into it at some point, and I get
Mhm.
so much feedback from doing those sorts of things, So the main thing is like you pack your prize suitcase, and then those 3 4 letter words. You got to give, you got to work, you got to care. And if you care about what you're doing and trying to achieve, you're gonna get there. It might not be exactly where you want to be, but you're gonna get there. And it's gonna have some swings and roundabouts, but keep your focus, keep zooming in on it, and you will get there. So that's where I would tell the kid. Again, for me, being 5 foot, I'm 175 centimeters, and I look at guys when they look at me on the basketball court, they're like, "Oh man, they about to blow me out." This little guy, let's post him up. You're not posting me up. When I'm doing 100 push-ups a night and I'm doing sit-ups, and I'm gonna front you, and I'm gonna yell for help. And my teammates
Yeah.
gonna be aware if you throw it over my head, you better throw it high because I'm gonna jump up and get that, right? And if you do get it, then my boys are right behind me, ready. And don't bring it down because I'm gonna say thank you very much. I'm grabbing it and I'm going the other way, right? So, so teamwork makes the dream work, and
Mhm.
that's the key to life, I think. It's all about another acronym. I'm big on these acronyms. It makes it easy for me to understand and relate. uh,
Yeah.
the, the teamwork is the togetherness, the equality, having the right attitude. Your attitude is your altitude. How high do you want to rise?
Yeah.
You got to mesh your skills. That's what I was talking about, the player coaching. You got to create opportunities for others.
Mhm.
Therefore, it shines back on you. And then once
Yeah.
you got the team down, now you got to go to work. It's about the we aspect. You don't go on the team and do these things by yourself. It's about we. It's about being organized. Your
Mhm.
day, 6 o'clock, the alarm is off. Shoot, I'm having some quick brekkie. I'm going out for my morning workout. And I come back and I'm showering, shave, make sure the deodorant's on. Go take care of everything else. It's about the role you want to play in an organization. You understand what your strengths are, your weaknesses, how you can improve on that, and then the key to all that is the K. You got to have a kindred spirit, you know, and that's where my run, stun, and have some fun comes in at. So if people ask me like, "Man, how come you smile all the time, man? You always smiling, like I said, because I'm happy, But even if I'm hurting, I smile because I'm not gonna let you know that you kind of got a little edge anywhere, Like I'll smile and say, you know what? I'm calculating because I'm finding out a way how I can get back and kick your butt. At the end of the day, it's all about winning. At the end of the day, so you just got to keep striving till you put yourself in a winning position.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like once you zone in, it's kind of just like as long as you keep going and don't stop, it's you'll get there
That's
eventually.
it. That's it. Don't stop. Don't stop. Don't stop.
Well, I've got some quick fire questions for you.
Okay.
So these are going to be
Fast.
10 quick questions,
Okay.
and we'll see how she goes. Okay, so first question: what was your favorite move on the court?
A crossover. Shake and bake.
Also,
They call.
what's the best advice you've ever received?
Get your education.
What toughest person you've ever had to guard?
Oof. Tiny Archibald, Nate the Snake. He led the NBA in scoring and assists.
What's your favorite meal?
Pasta.
Pasta. What's your go-to meal before a game, if you have one?
Oh, uh, probably pasta. Yeah, yeah. I used to eat steaks and things. That's used to be
Mm,
the college thing. You eat a steak and vegetables and all that. But nah. Pasta's easy and simple, and I can get through it.
yeah, 100%. Who's your dream teammate, past or present?
My dream teammate was Leroy Loggins, Leaping Leroy Loggins. He was.
Mm.
He's got a statue. That's the reason why.
What's your favorite basketball shoe, if you have one?
It was always I played in Converse as a youngster,
Mm.
but my favorite shoe was definitely Nike.
Who's the greatest basketball of all time? So who's the goat?
The GOAT is definitely MJ for me. I like obviously LeBron. That's the big debate,
Hmm.
But in all real practical purposes, Bill Russell is the GOAT, right?
Yeah,
Winning
yeah,
11 out of 13 championships because when you win like that, you can't help but be number one,
100%. I reckon he's probably one of the best centers of all time.
no question.
Uh,
And he was a player coach too.
what's your favorite song, if you have one?
Ain't No Stopping Us Now by McFadden and Whitehead. You're on the move. You got the groove.
You got the crew. Favorite basketball movie?
Um, Favorite basketball movie? Coach Carter.
Ooh, that is a good one. I like Coach Carter. Favorite memory on the basketball court?
Favorite memory was probably winning my conference championship in college. Probably two, I would say, but winning my conference championship in college. Missouri Valley Conference, I top scored the game with 29 points, and we won it. That's the first time my school had won it for like 20 something years. And I guess here in Australia was coaching the Wildcats to their first championship in Melbourne against. I'm sorry, against Brisbane, my old team. Yeah.
Well, that's the end of the quickfire questions, but I have one more question, and that is, what is up like next? Like, what do you have next? Like, tell the world what you have coming. What you have coming.
Gotta keep that secret now, but I'm exploring with a major sponsor that's come on board with my foundation of building an app for all kids around Australia to be able to tune into it, and I got some real good cherries that I can't mention now out the bag. But that's going to give them some huge opportunities to achieve their goals.
Well, for everyone listening, get excited. You'll probably find out about it soon, hopefully.
Yes, you will. Yes.
That is the end of the podcast, the end of the interview. Thank you for being on the show. It's been a pleasure. It's been amazing.
Nah, I appreciate you. No worries at all. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.